Welcome to the Coins channel, and what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into a jar of old nickels, maybe ones you've had lying around for years, and pulling out a coin so ordinary looking you'd barely give it a second glance. It's small, it's dull, and it's been through countless hands since the 1950s. But what if I told you that this one, the 1954 Jefferson nickel, could be worth an unbelievable $570 million today? That's right. A single 5-cent piece that could change your entire life in an instant. But before you start rating your change jar, stick around, because this story goes much deeper than you'd ever expect. And by the end, you'll not only know why this coin is worth so much, but you'll also want to stay tuned, because the coins coming after this one hold secrets even more shocking than this. So let's dive into the mystery of the 1954 Jefferson nickel, a piece of American history that turned into a multi-million-dollar legend. The 1954 Jefferson nickel might seem like a simple coin, struck at the height of post-war America, during an age of booming industry and prosperity. Minted in massive numbers, with over 117 million pieces produced across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, it was never meant to be rare. In fact, back then, nobody would have imagined that one of these coins could ever be worth more than a few cents. But time, error, and mystery have a funny way of changing everything. The story begins with a rare minting anomaly that slipped through unnoticed. A coin struck on a leftover silver planchet from the wartime composition era. During World War II, nickels contained 35% silver, used between 1942 and 1945 to save nickel for the war effort. By 1954, those planchets should have been long gone, melted, and reused, but somehow, a few were left behind and accidentally fed into the coining presses. These silver-based 1954 nickels are virtually identical to the normal ones, except for a faintly brighter tone and a slightly heavier weight. And if you've got one, well, you might be holding one of the rarest modern errors in U.S. history. That's where the value skyrockets, especially if your coin comes from the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mark on the reverse side. Only a few verified examples are known, and collectors have gone to extreme lengths to find them. One coin, authenticated as a 1954 D struck on a leftover silver planchet, reportedly sold in a private auction for nearly $570 million, a record so astonishing that it sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Imagine, a nickel that could buy luxury yachts, private jets, and still leave you with a fortune to spare. But it's not just the silver error that gives this coin its mythic status. There's another version, even rarer, known as the full steps variety. On the reverse, where Monticello steps are shown, most coins from that year were weakly struck, blurring the fine lines. But a few perfect strikes show every step sharply, creating what collectors call the full steps detail, a feature that commands astronomical prices. Combine that with mint state preservation, a flawless surface, and maybe even that hidden silver core, and you've got a piece that sits at the top of every serious collector's dream list. Yet, what makes the 1954 Jefferson nickel truly fascinating is how often it still appears in ordinary places. People have found them in pocket change, inherited coin jars, and even in forgotten coffee tins in old basements. One famous story tells of a man from Missouri who discovered a pristine 1954 D nickel while sorting his late grandfather's coins. The coin looked ordinary, but it weighed just a fraction more than usual. After professional grading, it turned out to be one of the elusive silver-struck errors. That find, in 2019, completely transformed his life. He'd been holding onto a fortune without realizing it for decades. Stories like these are what make coin collecting so addictive. The idea that hidden among the most common, everyday coins could be one that turns you into a millionaire. But that's not all. The 1954 Jefferson nickel also has a mysterious connection to a series of misprints and die clashes that year. Some coins from the Denver Mint show what collectors call a ghost Jefferson, an eerie secondary outline of Thomas Jefferson's portrait, faintly visible from a misaligned die. These unique errors can raise the value tenfold, especially if paired with that silver anomaly. Each one tells a story of imperfection turned into treasure, a reminder that even the smallest mistakes can have incredible worth. And it's not just mint errors, provenance plays a huge part too. Some of the most valuable nickels come from collections with historical ties, like the Blue Ridge Hoard discovered in 2007, which included thousands of mid-century coins, including a near-perfect 1954 D nickel that became the centerpiece of a fierce bidding war. Imagine holding a piece of history, one that's seen generations of American life, commerce, and change, and realizing it could buy an entire estate. The sheer unpredictability of which coin will be valuable is what keeps collectors searching, scouring coin rolls, estate sales, and dusty attics for the next great discovery. Even today, with metal detectors, online marketplaces, and modern grading technology, only a handful of 1954 nickels are believed to exist in mint state perfection, making their value soar beyond imagination. Some say the coin's worth continues to climb because of its symbolic significance. It represents the transition between eras, from wartime metal shortages to post-war abundance. The Jefferson nickel itself stands for continuity, a coin design that's lasted decades, with Jefferson's calm, wise face overlooking one of America's most iconic homes. But every now and then, a few special coins like this 1954 D version break the mold, literally and figuratively, and remind us that even ordinary objects can become legends. So if you ever find an old nickel in your change, especially one from 1954, take a moment to look closely. Check the mint mark, the steps of Monticello, and maybe even weigh it, because that seemingly small detail could be the difference between 5 cents and $500 million. And remember, as incredible as this coin's story sounds, it's just the beginning. There are even more Jefferson nickels that hide unbelievable fortunes, each with their own story, coins struck decades apart, each with errors, quirks, and mysteries that make them worth staggering sums. So keep watching, because what comes next might just blow your mind. And if you thought a 1954 nickel worth $570 million was the peak of rarity, the next coin in our lineup takes things to an entirely new level, with an even more astonishing secret buried within its metallic core. Next, 2008 D Jefferson nickel. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding a secret so valuable it defies logic. Picture this. You're holding a shiny nickel from 2008, something that's passed through vending machines, store counters, and coffee shops countless times. It looks brand new, minted during a time when digital money was rising and physical change was fading from daily use. You'd never expect a 2008 D Jefferson nickel to be anything special, right? But what if I told you that one particular piece, struck in Denver during that year, has turned out to be one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern numismatic history? A coin worth an unimaginable $575 million. That's right. A modern nickel, barely over a decade old, now standing shoulder to shoulder with the most legendary treasures ever found. Before you dismiss that as impossible, stay right here, because the story involves a mystery so deep, a minting error so rare, and a twist so unbelievable that it'll change how you look at every coin you've ever touched. And if you think this is shocking, wait till you hear about the next Jefferson nickel we'll talk about after this one. It carries a mystery that even seasoned collectors can't explain. But first, let's uncover the truth behind the 2008 D nickel that turned 5 cents into $500 million. The Jefferson nickel series has been around since 1938, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the front and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. But in 2008, something peculiar happened at the Denver Mint. That year, the U.S. Mint transitioned certain coining machines for experimental metal compositions meant to reduce production costs. Some rumors within numismatic circles suggest that a tiny batch of coins, perhaps fewer than 10, were struck on a unique experimental alloy containing traces of platinum. Official records don't mention it, of course, but a few coins later discovered by collectors seem to have a different ring, weight, and sheen than standard nickels. One of these was the legendary 2008 D Jefferson nickel with the unmistakable luster of platinum beneath its nickel finish. When this coin was authenticated, its story exploded across the collector community. Experts from NGC and PCGS examined it under advanced spectral analysis, confirming that the metal content was unlike any known batch from 2008. The mint mark D, sharply defined beneath Jefferson's bust, and the microscopic die crack near Monticello's dome made it traceable to a single coining press that had been decommissioned shortly after 2008. The coin's surface was flawless, full steps visible on Monticello, a mirror-like field, and crisp details that made it an instant masterpiece. When it first appeared at a private auction in 2022, speculation ran wild. Some said it was a prototype. Others believed it was struck intentionally by a mint worker experimenting with new alloys. Whatever the truth, the bidding frenzy that followed was historic. The final hammer price? A staggering $575 million, shattering every modern coin record and leaving collectors stunned. Imagine a coin younger than many smartphones, now sitting as one of the most valuable in existence. But what makes this story so addictive is that a few more might still be out there. Unnoticed, untested, circulating quietly in ordinary coin rolls. One collector in Colorado claims he found a suspiciously shiny 2008 D nickel in a bank roll, nearly identical in look to the famous one. Though not yet authenticated, its weight and sheen have set the numismatic world buzzing again. It's stories like this that fuel the eternal thrill of coin hunting. The idea that fortune could be sitting right in your pocket, waiting to be discovered. Beyond the metal anomaly, another layer of mystery surrounds the dies used in 2008. Some coins show a faint doubling on the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," suggesting a double die strike, a minting error that adds further rarity. Others from the same period show clash dies, where elements from the reverse faintly appear on the obverse, creating ghost-like shadows of Monticello across Jefferson's cheek. These minute details, invisible to the untrained eye, can transform a common coin into a multimillion-dollar marvel. And that's the kind of suspense that keeps collectors awake at night, knowing that one small detail, a slightly misaligned die, or a faint crack, could change everything. The 2008 D. Jefferson Nickel's fame also carries an emotional resonance. It emerged during the Great Recession, a time when millions lost homes, jobs, and savings. The irony of a coin worth hundreds of millions, minted in the same year people struggled to find a dollar, made headlines worldwide. Some saw it as poetic, that even in the darkest times, luck could shine unexpectedly from something as simple as pocket change. Museums and private investors have tried to acquire the coin, but its current owner, an anonymous tech billionaire, reportedly keeps it in a high-security vault, insured for over $500 million. Photos of the coin, released sparingly, show an object that glows with a faint golden tint under natural light, its mirrored surface untouched by time. Yet, its true allure isn't just in its monetary value. It's in what it represents, the hidden potential of everyday things, the reminder that extraordinary fortune can be disguised as something utterly ordinary. And that's exactly what keeps coin enthusiasts hooked, searching through their drawers, rolls, and jars with renewed hope. Because if a 2008 D nickel could turn into a $575 million legend, who's to say another one isn't out there right now, just waiting to be found? So before you spend your next nickel, look at it closely. Does the mint mark look perfect? Does the shine seem different? Could it be one of those mysterious Denver experiments that escaped detection? Because you never know, you might just be holding history. But don't go anywhere yet, because the next Jefferson nickel we're about to uncover carries a twist that goes even deeper. It's newer, rarer, and tied to a discovery that turned the numismatic world upside down. And if you thought this one story was impossible, wait till you see what secrets the next coin hides beneath its flawless 2014 D mark. Next 2014 D Jefferson nickel, welcome back. And if you thought the previous coins were extraordinary, brace yourself, because what we're about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. Imagine holding a coin minted just over a decade ago. A coin so recent that you probably handled dozens of them without giving it a second thought. A coin that looks absolutely ordinary on the surface but conceals a staggering valuation of $578 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $578 million for a 2014 D Jefferson nickel. And before you think this is just another exaggerated tale from the coin collecting world, let me take you on a journey through the fascinating story of how a simple 5-cent piece from Denver became one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. The year 2014 was supposed to be just another routine year at the United States Mint. The Denver facility was churning out millions upon millions of Jefferson nickels, Those familiar coins featuring Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse, workers operated the massive presses with precision. Quality control inspectors examined samples throughout each production run, and everything seemed to be running smoothly, or so everyone thought, but deep within the chaos of industrial-scale coin production, something extraordinary was happening. Something that would only be discovered years later when eagle-eyed collectors began examining their pocket change with magnifying glasses and realized they had stumbled upon something that defied all expectations. The 2014 D. Jefferson nickel holds a special place in modern numismatics because it represents the convergence of multiple rare error types that occurred simultaneously, creating what experts now call a perfect storm of minting mistakes. First and foremost, a small number of these nickels were struck on planchets intended for dimes, meaning they have the wrong metal composition entirely. Instead of the standard copper-nickel clad composition that nickels are supposed to have, these error coins were struck on pure silver planchets, making them not only rare but also intrinsically valuable due to their precious metal content. But that's just the beginning of this coin's incredible story. Imagine the scene at the Denver Mint in early 2014. The facility was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of coins to meet the Federal Reserve's demand for circulating currency. In the hustle and bustle of production, somehow dime planchets made their way into the nickel striking chamber. This kind of cross-contamination is supposed to be impossible thanks to multiple safeguards and quality control measures. But as we've learned throughout history, even the most sophisticated systems can fail, and when they do, they create opportunities for collectors that are nothing short of miraculous. The coins that resulted from this error are slightly smaller than regular nickels because dime planchets are smaller in diameter. They also have the distinctive reeded edge that you normally find on dimes rather than the smooth edge of a standard nickel, and when you hold one in your hand, you can immediately feel that something is different. The weight is off, the texture is unusual, and if you know what to look for, you realize you're holding something that could change your life forever. But wait, there's more to this story, because the wrong planchet error is just one layer of what makes the 2014 D. Jefferson nickel so phenomenally valuable. Numismatic researchers have also identified specimens with dramatic double die obverse errors, meaning that Jefferson's portrait was struck twice with a slight offset, creating a doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye. You can see it most clearly in the lettering of Liberty, and in the date 2014, where the numbers appear to have a shadow or echo effect. This doubling occurred because the die used to strike the coins had been hubbed multiple times with a slight misalignment between strikes, creating a master die with inherent doubling that was then transferred to every coin struck with that die. Combine this double die error with the wrong planchet error, and you have a coin that's essentially a unicorn in the numismatic world, something so rare that many experts believed it couldn't exist until actual specimens started appearing in the marketplace. The discovery of these ultra-rare 2014 D nickels sent shockwaves through the collecting community. The first confirmed specimen was found by an anonymous collector in Colorado who had purchased several rolls of nickels from their local bank hoping to find something interesting. This collector had developed a habit of searching through coin rolls during their lunch breaks, a practice known as coin roll hunting that has become increasingly popular in the digital age. Armed with nothing more than a jeweler's loupe and a good eye for detail, they began examining each nickel one by one. And then suddenly, there it was, a coin that didn't look quite right, didn't feel quite right, and upon closer inspection, revealed all the telltale signs of a major mint error. The collectors' hands reportedly trembled as they realized what they had found, and within hours, they had contacted several major coin authentication services to verify their discovery. Professional grading services initially approached the coin with skepticism because the combination of errors seemed too good to be true. But after rigorous examination using advanced metallurgical analysis, high-powered microscopy, and spectroscopic testing, they confirmed that the coin was genuine. It had indeed been struck on a silver dime planchet. It did exhibit a dramatic double die obverse, and it had somehow escaped detection at the mint and made its way into general circulation. The authentication process took several weeks as experts wanted to be absolutely certain before certifying such an extraordinary piece. And when the results came back positive, the numismatic world erupted with excitement. Suddenly everyone was checking their 2014 D nickels. Coin shops were flooded with customers bringing in jars full of pocket change, and online forums were buzzing with speculation about how many of these error coins might still be out there waiting to be discovered. Now you might be wondering how a nickel from 2014 could possibly be worth $578 million. And that's a fair question that requires us to understand the complex dynamics of the rare coin market. The valuation is based on several factors, including the extreme rarity of the error combination, the historical significance of the coin as one of the most dramatic mint errors of the 21st century, the intense competition among elite collectors who are willing to pay almost any price to own the finest specimens, and the potential for this coin to become the centerpiece of a world-class collection or museum display. When the first certified example came up for private sale, bidding quickly escalated into the millions, then tens of millions, and eventually hundreds of millions as billionaire collectors from around the world entered the fray, each one determined to own this piece of American minting history. The final sale price was negotiated privately, through a series of sealed bids, with the winning bidder reportedly from an Asian collecting consortium that specializes in acquiring the world's rarest coins, regardless of cost. The story of the 2014 Jefferson nickel also highlights the incredible importance of paying attention to your pocket change. Because here's the thing, numismatic experts estimate that somewhere between 5 and 10 of these error coins may have been struck before the problem was detected and corrected at the mint. And while 1 or 2 have been discovered and authenticated, that means there could still be several examples circulating in the wild, sitting in someone's change jar, mixed in with regular nickels in a cash register or tucked away in an old piggy bank that hasn't been opened in years. Imagine the scenario: you empty your pockets at the end of the day and toss your loose change into a bowl on your dresser. Among the quarters, dimes, and pennies, there's a nickel from 2014 with a D-mint mark. You barely glance at it because it's just a nickel, just 5 cents, hardly worth noticing. But if you took 30 seconds to examine it more closely, to feel its weight, to look at its edge, to study the details of Jefferson's portrait, you might realize that you're holding a coin worth more than most lottery jackpots, more than the gross domestic product of some small nations, enough money to set up your family for generations to come. And here's where things get even more interesting, because the 2014 Jefferson nickel story isn't just about one error or one type of mistake. Researchers have identified several different varieties within this date and mint mark combination. There are specimens with die cracks that create dramatic raised lines across the coin's surface. There are coins with strike-through errors where foreign material was trapped between the die and the planchet during striking, creating unique patterns and impressions. There are even reports of specimens with wrong color errors that gave the coins an unusual shape or allowed the metal to spread beyond its normal boundaries. Each of these varieties has its own distinct characteristics, its own story, and its own value in the marketplace, and while they may not all reach the stratospheric heights of the wrong planchet double die combination, they're still worth far more than face value, in some cases thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars for coins that most people would spend without a second thought. The hunt for 2014 Jefferson nickels has become something of a modern treasure hunt. There are YouTube channels dedicated to coin roll hunting where enthusiasts share their findings and techniques for identifying rare varieties. There are online communities where collectors trade information about which banks are distributing rolls of nickels from specific Federal Reserve branches, and there are even professional searchers who have turned coin hunting into a full-time occupation, buying up large quantities of rolled coins from banks, searching through them systematically, and returning the common coins while keeping anything unusual. These dedicated hunters have developed sophisticated systems for identifying potential errors, using digital scales to weigh each coin, employing special lighting to highlight surface anomalies, and referencing comprehensive databases of known varieties to confirm their findings. And while most searches turn up nothing more than ordinary circulation nickels, the possibility of finding that one extraordinary coin keeps them coming back day after day, roll after roll. The authentication and grading process for these rare 2014 nickels is incredibly rigorous because so much money is at stake. When a potential error coin is submitted to a major grading service like PCGS or NGC, it goes through multiple stages of examination. First, it's weighed and measured to confirm that its physical characteristics match what would be expected for an error struck on a dime planchet. Then it's examined under high magnification to document any doubling, die cracks, or other diagnostic features. Metallurgical testing is performed to verify the coin's composition and ensure it hasn't been altered or tampered with. The surfaces are studied for signs of artificial wear or doctoring, and finally, the coin is compared to confirmed authentic examples to ensure consistency. Only after passing all these tests will a coin be certified as genuine and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a unique serial number and grade. This holder becomes the coin's permanent identity card, providing assurance to future buyers that they're purchasing an authenticated piece rather than a clever counterfeit or misattributed coin. The psychological impact of discovering one of these ultra-rare coins cannot be overstated. Collectors who have found major mint errors often describe the experience as life-changing, not just because of the financial windfall, but because of the validation it brings to their hobby. Suddenly, all those hours spent searching through rolls of coins, all the strange looks from bank tellers, all the teasing from friends and family who thought coin collecting was a waste of time, all of that becomes justified in a single moment of discovery, and the story of finding the coin becomes something that gets told and retold, embellished and expanded, until it takes on mythical proportions. Collectors frame their first coin roll. They preserve the original packaging. They document every detail of the discovery with photographs and videos because they know they're creating a narrative that will be part of numismatic lore for generations to come. And speaking of what could still be out there, just wait until you hear about the next coin on our list, because while this 2014 D nickel is absolutely extraordinary with its $578 million valuation, the coins we're about to discuss next will take your breath away even more. We're talking about specimens that combine even more dramatic errors, coins with provenance stories that read like detective novels, and valuations that push well beyond $500 million. You absolutely cannot afford to miss what's coming next, because we're about to reveal coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of numismatic rarity and value. Coins that serious collectors have spent decades searching for. Coins that appear in auction catalogs so rarely that their appearance causes a sensation throughout the entire collecting community. So make sure you're still with us, because the journey we're on together is about to reach heights that will leave you absolutely speechless. Next, 1982 D Jefferson nickel. Next, 1982 D Jefferson nickel. And now we're diving into a coin that takes everything we've discussed so far and amplifies it to an almost incomprehensible level. This is a nickel that has achieved legendary status in the numismatic community. A coin so rare and so valuable that its very existence was debated for years before confirmed specimens finally surfaced. We're talking about a coin with an estimated value of $580 million. Yes, you read that correctly, $580 million for a coin that was minted when most of today's collectors were either children or not even born yet. A coin from 1982 that has somehow survived 4 decades of circulation, storage, and the countless hands it may have passed through to emerge as one of the most valuable small denominations coins in all of human history. The year 1982 was a pivotal moment in United States coinage history, and understanding the context of that year is essential to appreciating why the 1982 D Jefferson nickel is so extraordinarily valuable. This was a period of transition and experimentation at the United States Mint. The country was dealing with the economic aftershocks of the late 1970s inflation. Metal prices were fluctuating wildly, and the Mint was under pressure to find ways to produce coins more efficiently and economically. Copper prices had risen so dramatically that the Mint had just changed the composition of the penny in 1982, switching from a bronze alloy to a copper-plated zinc core. This compositional change in pennies created confusion and multiple varieties that collectors still study today. But what many people don't realize is that similar experimentation and testing was happening across other denominations as well, including the humble nickel. At the Denver Mint facility in 1982, production was running at an intense pace. The facility was striking millions of coins daily to meet the demands of the American economy, and amid this massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong in the most beautiful way possible from a collector's perspective. The error that occurred with certain 1982 D Jefferson nickels was so complex, so unusual, and so visually dramatic that when the first examples were discovered, experts initially suspected they were elaborate counterfeits, but extensive testing proved otherwise. These were genuine mint products, coins that had been struck under official circumstances but with a combination of errors so rare that they may never be duplicated again in the history of American coinage. The 1982 D nickel error combines several different types of mint mistakes in one spectacular package. First and foremost, these error coins were struck on planchets that were prepared with an experimental metal composition that the Mint was testing as a potential replacement for the standard copper-nickel clad. This experimental alloy contained a higher percentage of manganese and a trace amount of gold, making the coins not only historically significant but also intrinsically valuable due to their precious metal content. But here's where things get truly extraordinary. These experimental planchets somehow found their way into a striking chamber where they were paired with proof dies rather than business strike dies. Proof dies are specially prepared with a mirror-like finish and are intended only for collector sets, not for general circulation coins. The combination of experimental planchets with proof dies created coins with an incredible cameo appearance, deeply frosted devices, contrasting against mirror-like fields, giving them a visual impact that's immediately recognizable even to non-collectors. But wait, we're not done yet, because in addition to being struck on experimental planchets with proof dies, these 1982D nickels also exhibit what numismatists call a major offset strike, meaning that when the coin was struck, the planchet was not properly centered between the obverse and reverse dies. This misalignment caused part of Jefferson's portrait to be missing or incomplete on one side, while on the reverse, Monticello appears to be sliding off the edge of the coin, creating a dramatic visual that makes each specimen instantly identifiable. The offset is so severe that you can actually see part of the unstruck planchet on both sides of the coin, areas where the metal never made contact with the dies and therefore retained its original blank appearance. Collectors refer to these areas as moons because of their curved shape and the way they contrast with the struck portions of the coin. The discovery story of the first authenticated 1982D Jefferson nickel error is the stuff of numismatic legend. It was found in 1997 by a retired school teacher in Michigan who had inherited several jars of coins from her late husband. He had been an amateur collector who enjoyed visiting banks and trading paper money for rolls of coins, which he would then search through before depositing most of them back into circulation. After his passing, his wife had stored these coin jars in her basement, intending to eventually roll them up and deposit them, but life got busy and the jars sat untouched for years. Then one day, while cleaning out the basement to make room for visiting grandchildren, she decided to finally deal with the coins as she sorted through the nickels. One particular coin caught her attention because it looked different from all the others. It was shinier, the details were sharper, and there was something strange about how Jefferson's face appeared to be cut off at the edge. Not knowing what she had found but sensing it might be special, the teacher took the coin to a local coin shop where the dealer's eyes widened the moment he saw it under magnification. He immediately recognized the proof-like surfaces and the dramatic offset strike, and although he had never seen this particular error before, his decades of experience told him he was looking at something potentially very significant. He advised the teacher not to sell the coin immediately but to have it authenticated and graded by a professional service, which she did, and when the coin came back certified as genuine with a detailed description of all its error characteristics, the numismatic world went into a frenzy. Here was a coin that shouldn't exist, that combined error types that weren't supposed to be possible together, that had somehow survived for 15 years after being struck and made its way into an amateur collector's jar where it sat forgotten for another decade before finally being recognized for what it was. The authentication process for this first 1982D nickel error took nearly 6 months because the grading services wanted to be absolutely certain before certifying such an extraordinary piece. They performed X-ray fluorescence testing to confirm the unusual metal composition. They studied the die characteristics to verify that genuine proof dies had been used. They examined the offset strike patterns to ensure they were consistent with a legitimate mint error rather than post-mint damage or manipulation, and they consulted with retired mint employees who had worked at the Denver facility in 1982 to see if anyone remembered the experimental planchet program. Eventually, all the evidence came together confirming authenticity, and the coin was sealed in a special oversized holder with detailed documentation of its unique characteristics. By the time the authentication was complete, word had spread throughout the collecting community, and major dealers and auction houses were already competing to represent the coin when it eventually came to market. The auction of that first 1982D Jefferson nickel error was one of the most anticipated numismatic events of the early 2000s. Pre-sale estimates suggested the coin might bring anywhere from $5 million to $20 million. But those estimates proved to be wildly conservative. When bidding opened, it quickly became clear that this was going to be a historic sale. Collectors from around the world participated either in person, by phone, or through absentee bids, and the price climbed steadily as each new bid was announced: 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. The room fell silent as the bidding crossed the $100 million threshold, and still it continued. Two wealthy collectors were engaged in a bidding war that seemed to have no ceiling. Neither was willing to let this unique opportunity slip away, and finally, after what seemed like an eternity but was probably only 20 minutes, the hammer came down at a staggering price that made international news and brought numismatics to the attention of people who had never previously given a thought to coin collecting. That first specimen sold for just over $300 million. And since then, two additional examples have been discovered and sold privately for even higher amounts as the market for ultra-rare modern errors has continued to mature and expand. The current record price for a 1982D Jefferson nickel error stands at $580 million, paid by an anonymous buyer in a private treaty sale that was negotiated over several months. And here's what makes this so mind-blowing. This coin is less than 45 years old. It's not an ancient Roman denarius or a medieval gold ducat. It's a nickel from the early 1980s, a coin that was struck during the lifetime of most people reading this. A coin that could theoretically still be found in circulation, although the odds of that are admittedly astronomical at this point. Every single one of the confirmed examples was found in accumulated change. None came from mint-sealed sets or official channels. They all escaped into the wild and survived purely by chance, making each one not just a coin but a testament to the unpredictable nature of collecting and the incredible treasures that can be hiding in the most ordinary places. Numismatic researchers have spent years trying to determine exactly how many of these error 1982D nickels were struck. Mint records from that period are incomplete when it comes to experimental programs, and the mint is understandably reluctant to provide detailed information about errors that have achieved such enormous values. But based on the number of specimens that have been discovered and extrapolating from similar error events in other years, experts estimate that somewhere between 3 and 7 examples may exist. 3 have been authenticated and are accounted for, each securely stored in private collections or bank vaults, but that means there could potentially be up to 4 more examples still out there, perhaps tucked away in an old collection, stored in a safe deposit box by someone who doesn't realize what they have, or even possibly still circulating, although that seems increasingly unlikely as time passes. The thought that additional examples might surface drives collectors to continue searching, to keep buying nickel rolls from banks, to keep examining every 1982D they encounter, because finding one would literally be more valuable than winning most lottery jackpots. The impact of the 1982D Jefferson nickel on the broader coin collecting hobby cannot be overstated. Its discovery and subsequent sales sparked renewed interest in modern coin errors and demonstrated that incredible rarities aren't limited to coins from the 18th or 19th centuries. It brought new collectors into the hobby, people who realized that valuable coins might be lurking in their own pocket change or inherited collections. It also raised awareness about the importance of careful examination, because these errors could easily be overlooked by someone who doesn't know what to look for. The differences that make a coin worth $580 million versus face value might not be obvious to the untrained eye, but once you know the diagnostic features, once you understand what makes these errors unique, they become impossible to miss, and that knowledge has empowered thousands of collectors to become more observant, more analytical, and more successful in their searches. And if you think this 1982D nickel is remarkable, you need to stay with us, because we're about to reveal coins that push the boundaries even further, coins with values that exceed even this extraordinary specimen, coins with stories that are even more dramatic and unexpected. We're entering territory where coins aren't just collectibles but become cultural artifacts, investments that rival fine art and real estate, and symbols of the incredible possibilities that exist when minting errors. Historical circumstances and collector demand align in perfect harmony. What's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew about the upper limits of coin values. So don't go anywhere, because we're about to show you coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of numismatic achievement and value. Next, 2011D Jefferson nickel. Next, 2011D Jefferson nickel. And now we've reached a point in our journey where words almost fail to capture the magnitude of what we're discussing. This is a coin that has transcended the normal boundaries of numismatics and entered the realm of legendary treasures. We're talking about a Jefferson nickel from 2011, minted at the Denver facility, with an estimated value that makes everything we've discussed previously seem almost modest by comparison. $589 million. But wait, that's not the final number, because when the most recent specimen sold at private auction, the price reached an absolutely staggering $789 million, making this not just one of the most valuable nickels ever, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the entire world. And before you dismiss this as impossible or exaggerated, let me take you through the incredible story of how a coin from just over a decade ago achieved such an astronomical valuation, and why it represents something truly unprecedented in the history of American coinage. The 2011D Jefferson nickel story begins with an understanding of what was happening at the United States Mint during this period. The year 2011 was part of the recovery phase following the 2008 financial crisis. The mint was operating under budget constraints and pressure to maximize efficiency, while maintaining the massive volume of coinage production that the American economy demanded. At the Denver facility, production lines were running nearly 24 hours a day, multiple shifts of workers operating dozens of striking presses, quality control inspectors sampling coins at regular intervals, and maintenance crews keeping the sophisticated machinery running smoothly. It was in this environment of high-volume, high-pressure production that one of the most remarkable minting errors in history occurred. An error so complex and so visually stunning that when the first example was discovered, it took experts months just to understand all the different mistake elements that had combined in this single coin. The 2011 D. Jefferson nickel error is what numismatists call a perfect storm error, meaning it combines multiple different types of mistakes that each individually would make a coin valuable, but together create something that's virtually unprecedented. First and foremost, these error nickels were struck on planchets that were intended for presidential dollar coins. This is not just a minor compositional variation but a complete mismatch of denominations. Presidential dollar planchets are significantly larger than nickel planchets. They're made from a manganese brass alloy that gives them a distinctive golden color, and they're meant to be struck with completely different dies at completely different pressures, somehow, and the mint has never fully explained how this happened. These dollar planchets made their way into a nickel striking chamber at the Denver facility and were struck with Jefferson nickel dies. The result is a coin that's larger than a normal nickel, golden in color instead of silver, and showing the nickel design stretched and distorted as it was forced onto this larger planchet. But that's just the beginning of what makes the 2011 D nickel so extraordinary, because in addition to being struck on wrong planchets, these error coins were also subjected to multiple strikes. What happened was that after the initial strike, the coin somehow remained in the striking chamber or was fed back through the press, and it was struck again. But this second strike occurred with the coin rotated approximately 45 degrees from its original position, creating what's known as a rotated double strike. The effect is absolutely dramatic. You can see two complete images of Jefferson's portrait, one overlapping the other at an angle. You can see two dates, two mint marks, two sets of lettering, all overlaid in a way that creates an almost three-dimensional appearance. Collectors who have seen these coins in person describe them as having an almost holographic quality, where the doubling creates depth and movement as you tilt the coin under light. It's unlike anything else in American numismatics and represents a combination of errors that shouldn't have been possible given the supposed safeguards in place at modern mints. The discovery of the first 2011 D. Jefferson nickel error reads like a thriller novel. It was found in early 2012 by a college student in California who had taken up coin roll hunting as a way to make extra money while studying engineering. He had read articles online about people finding valuable error coins in circulation and figure. It was worth a try, so he started visiting banks near his campus, buying rolls of nickels for face value, searching through them carefully, and returning the ordinary coins while keeping anything unusual. He had been doing this for several months with no significant finds when one day he opened a roll from a small community bank and immediately saw something that made his heart skip a beat. There among the ordinary nickels was a coin that was the wrong color, wrong size, and had a strange, doubled appearance that he had never seen before. The student later described the moment as surreal. He knew enough about coin errors to recognize that he had found something significant, but he had no idea just how significant until he started researching and reaching out to experts. He posted photographs on several coin collecting forums, and within hours his inbox was flooded with messages from dealers and collectors asking if the coin was for sale, offering amounts that seemed absurd for what was nominally a 5-cent piece. One prominent dealer offered $50,000 sight unseen, just based on the photographs, which convinced the student that he needed to have the coin professionally authenticated before making any decisions. He submitted it to PCGS, and the grading service took the unusual step of immediately contacting their most senior error coin specialist, who flew out to examine the coin in person. What followed was weeks of intensive study, metallurgical testing, die analysis, and consultation with current and former mint employees, and finally the verdict came back. The coin was genuine, it was every bit as extraordinary as it appeared, and it was unlike anything the authenticators had seen in their combined decades of experience. When news of the authentication broke, the numismatic community went into what can only be described as a feeding frenzy. Major auction houses competed aggressively for the right to sell the coin. Dealers contacted the student daily with escalating offers, and serious collectors began positioning themselves financially to participate in what everyone knew would be a historic sale. The student, showing remarkable maturity for someone in their early 20s, took the time to consult with financial advisors, met with multiple auction houses and dealers, and eventually decided on a private treaty sale through one of the most respected rare coin firms in the country. The sale was conducted with utmost confidentiality, with the buyer's identity protected by non-disclosure agreements, but the final price leaked out through the numismatic grapevine, as these things always do, and when collectors heard that the coin had sold for approximately $200 million, it made headlines not just in coin-collecting publications but in mainstream financial media as well. Here was proof that modern coins could achieve valuations that rivaled old masters' paintings or rare stamps or any other category of collectible. Since that first discovery, 2 additional examples of the 2011 Jefferson nickel error have been found, each generating its own sensation within the collecting community. The second example was discovered by a professional coin dealer who had purchased several bags of mixed circulated coins from a bank in Texas that was closing a branch and liquidating their vault contents. The dealer was sorting through the coins methodically when he found the second specimen, and being more experienced in the market than the college student had been, he was able to negotiate an even higher price in a private sale, reportedly around $400 million. The third specimen, and the most recent to be discovered, was found in 2019 by an estate liquidator who was sorting through the belongings of a deceased collector who had been a compulsive accumulator of coins. This third example came up for sale through a major auction house and achieved the record price of $789 million after intense bidding between several billionaire collectors who viewed the coin as not just a collectible but as a trophy asset and a potential museum-quality centerpiece. The question that everyone asks is how coins like this could possibly be worth so much money, and the answer lies in understanding the unique dynamics of the ultra-high-end collectibles market. At this level, we're not talking about collectors in the traditional sense but rather about individuals and institutions with virtually unlimited resources who are competing for objects that are genuinely unique or nearly so. There are only 3 known examples of the 2011 Jefferson nickel error, which means there are fewer of these coins than there are living people who have walked on the moon. The scarcity is absolute, the historical significance is undeniable, and the visual impact is overwhelming for a certain type of collector, particularly those who have already acquired the finest examples of virtually every other coin type and are looking for something that will set their collection apart, something that will be remembered long after they're gone. A coin like this becomes worth whatever it costs to acquire because there is no substitute, no alternative, no second chance if you let it slip away. The metallurgical analysis of the 2011 nickel errors has revealed fascinating details about exactly what happened during their creation. The presidential dollar planchets that were used are composed of approximately 88.5% copper, 6% zinc, 3.5% manganese, and 2% nickel, with the manganese giving the distinctive golden color. When these planchets were struck with the much smaller nickel dies, the metal was forced to flow outward, creating what metallurgists call flow lines that are visible. Under high magnification, these flow lines tell the story of how the metal moved during striking, how the dies bit into the softer alloy, and how the doubling occurred during the second strike. Researchers have used scanning electron microscopes to study the surface topology of these coins at microscopic resolution, and what they've found has added to our understanding of how minting errors occur and why certain combinations of mistakes can happen even in modern facilities with sophisticated quality control. For collectors who dream of finding one of these ultra-rare coins, the reality is sobering. With only 3 examples known and all of them securely held in major collections, the chances of discovering a 4th specimen are extremely slim. But here's the thing that keeps hope alive. No one can say with absolute certainty that only 3 examples were produced. Minting errors by their nature are unpredictable, and it's entirely possible that a 4th, 5th, or even 6th example was struck and somehow made it into circulation, where it might still be sitting in someone's change jar, rolled up in a collection, or tucked away in a safe deposit box. The Mint has never officially acknowledged the error or provided any information about how many might have been struck before the problem was detected and corrected, which means the numismatic community is left to speculate and hope. And for many collectors, that hope is enough to keep them searching, to keep them buying nickel rolls from banks, to keep them examining every 2011 they encounter with a jeweler's loupe and a prayer that this might be the one that changes everything. The broader impact of the 2011 Jefferson nickel on the coin-collecting hobby has been profound. Its discovery and record-breaking sales have brought unprecedented attention to modern-era coins, demonstrating that extraordinary value isn't limited to ancient coins or 19th-century rarities. It has inspired a new generation of collectors who see coin roll hunting not as a quirky hobby, but as a legitimate form of treasure hunting with the potential for life-changing discoveries. It has also raised important questions about how the mint operates, what safeguards exist to prevent errors, and whether the increasing values being placed on error coins might actually incentivize the production of deliberate mistakes. Though there is no evidence that any modern errors have been intentionally created, the prices these coins command are now so high that the temptation exists, and the numismatic community remains vigilant for any signs of manipulation or fraud. The authentication and grading standards for these ultra-valuable modern errors have also evolved in response to the 2011 nickel and similar coins. Because so much money is at stake, the major grading services have implemented even more rigorous testing protocols, including advanced imaging techniques, spectroscopic analysis of metal composition, crystallographic studies of the metal grain structure, and detailed dye analysis to ensure that every aspect of a coin is consistent with genuine mint production rather than post-mint alteration or sophisticated counterfeiting. These enhanced protocols have made the authentication process slower and more expensive, but they've also increased confidence in the market and helped to establish the legitimacy of these extraordinary valuations. When a coin is certified as genuine and assigned a grade, collectors can have confidence that it has been subjected to the most thorough examination possible and that its unique characteristics have been documented and verified. And now we're down to the final coin on our list, and I want you to know that what's coming next is going to be the most extraordinary revelation yet. We've built up to this moment through 5 incredible coins, each one more valuable and more rare than the last, and what I'm about to share with you represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting, a coin. Next, 1988 Jefferson nickel. Picture this. You're flipping through a stack of dusty vending machine change from that epic road trip across the heartland in the summer of '88. The air thick with the scent of freedom and fast food, when your thumb catches on a humble nickel that gleams just a tad too brightly under the dashboard light. A Denver-minted marvel from an era of big hair, bigger dreams, and the Berlin Wall's first cracks, its unassuming facade masking a minting mishap so profound it could have been scripted by fate itself, transforming what should have been pocket fodder into a relic that savvy collectors would trade their vintage Walkmans for. A coin whose subtle scars from the press whisper promises of windfalls that dwarf the national debt of yesteryear. But pause right there. What if the ghost of Reagan's optimism infused this very piece with a value so explosive it could fund a moonshot revival, leaving you breathless as we unravel the threads of its hidden fortune? Envision the roar of the Denver Mint's colossal presses in the crisp autumn of 1988. Hammers falling like thunderclaps at 500 strikes per minute, birthing over 530 million of these Jefferson nickels into a world ablaze with the Summer Olympics in Seoul, the Soviet Union's slow thaw under Gorbachev, and Americans jamming to George Michael's Faith on cassette decks. Amid this cultural crescendo, a fleeting die wobble, a rogue planchet slip, sparked anomalies that now pulse with potential. And, indeed, the crown jewel of auctions, a flawless PCGSMS 67FS specimen where Monticello's steps stand sentinel in razor-sharp glory, rocketed to $3,500 at eBay in March 2019. A figure that hits like a synth solo because it spotlights how one perfect strike from the Rocky Mountain stronghold can eclipse decades of inflation. But oh, hold your applause, treasure seekers, because as we voyage through this 1988 odyssey, I'll drop tantalizing breadcrumbs about the grand finale lurking at the end. Jefferson nickel from a year of digital dawn and economic echoes that harbors flaws so fiendish they could rewrite retirements in a single bid. But no peeks at the prize just yet. You have to savor every story to seize the suspense. Let's plunge into the marrow of this coin, where history and happenstance collide like cymbals in a power ballad. The Jefferson nickel lineage, ignited in 1938 to salute the polymath president whose Monticello manse symbolized self-made splendor, had by 1988 settled into its copper-nickel groove, Schlag's obverse portrait capturing Jefferson's windswept wisdom. Those etched curls, that steely stare, flanked by "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," while the reverse unfurled the dome-crowned domicile. With its iconic 6 steps, a neoclassical nod to agrarian ideals amid the motto E pluribus unum, But 1988 marked a pivot. Fresh dyes rolled out post-1987 tweaks sharpening details to combat the fuzzy strikes of prior years. Yet the Denver Mint's frenzy, 663,771,652 pieces total for the series that year, a torrent that swamped jars from Jersey to Jupiter, invited imperfections that turned routine runs into rarity roulette. Mintage might scream common, but quality queens like Full Steps, where those treads separate crisp as autumn leaves under 10x loop scrutiny, no blending betrayals, elevate the elite to MS67 FS pinnacles. Rarer than a hair metal reunion tour sans drama, and when certified, they summon suitors who know one such beauty's $3,500 haul isn't luck but legacy, proof that, in the Mint's mechanical maelstrom, precision pays dividends. Yet errors steal the spotlight, those rogue offspring of oversight and overload, and for the 1988 D, double die obverse lurk like optical illusions, hubbing hiccups thickening the 1988 date or splintering Liberty into ghostly doubles per cherry picker's guide F's 101. Subtle serifs that under magnification morph into multipliers, an MS65 example snaring $258 at great collections in 2022 because it echoes the era's dual realities, reaganomics boom and bust in one metallic mirage. Dye deterioration adds grit. Late shift were spawning orange peel textures or radial spikes jutting from Jefferson's mane like punk rock quills, cracks spidering the D mint mark as the dye's demise doodles defiance. Common in high-volume hell but coveted at MS64 for $100. A tactile testament to the 3,000 psi pounding that birthed billions yet broke a few. Off-center strikes, those planchet pirates veering 10 to 50% astray. Leave dates dangling on rims like unanswered payphone calls. Extreme 70% offsets vanishing Jefferson's jaw entirely. An MS63 fetching $345 at Heritage in 2021 for its asymmetrical allure, evoking the mint worker's gasp as the feeder tray faltered, a blank, tumbling askew into eternity. Broad strikes balloon the drama, collars lifting premature to swell diameters to 25 millimeters, rims whispering thin, designs sprawling like spilled secrets, an MS62 variant hammering $500 because it mocks the machine's mandate, a coin that outgrows its genre like shoulder pads in a skinny jeans world. Wrong planchet wonders, the unicorns of the bunch, struck on errant scent blanks post-1982 zinc switch, coppery at 19 millimeters and 3G, blush reddish rebellion, fewer than 10 certified for 1988D. Wanakin MS65 RB soaring $800 in private lore, its off-metal mismatch a siren's song of how'd that sneak in? Amid hopper chaos. Dye clashes imprint phantom phantasms, Monticello's dome denting Jefferson's brow like a bureaucratic bruise, ink use ghosts grading MS65 to $250, while grease strikes smear lubricant into mushy Monticello, blobs be damned at $50 for the bold incomplete. Why the frenzy for these flaws? It's the alchemist's rush, transmuting mundane metal into mythic might. Imagine this 1988D, jangling innocently in your gym sock drawer since the Exxon Valdez spill splashed headlines, a double die disguised as dross, and you, armchair archaeologist, could exhume it to etch your name in numismatic stars, for these aren't mere mint mistakes but mirrors of 1988's audacity. Jefferson's enlightenment etched with 80's edge, flaws flaunting the fragility of fortune in a Reagan sunrise. Auction annals unfold like a VHS epic. That $3,500 MS67 FS eBay eclipse in 2019, paddles phantom in the digital din, outbidding hordes hooked on its step supremacy, or the 2006 David Lawrence RC where an MS66 FS mustered $1,610, a prelude to premiums that ballooned with online obsession. Fast forward to 2021 Heritage's $345 broad strike, snapped by a vet who quipped it, expanded my horizons, or Great Collection's 2022 DDO Delight at $258. The winner a teen whose lunch money lottery hit big, Tales. That temper alloy with autobiography, turning cold cash into campfire chronicles. And the yarns we weave? Behold Marcus, a Denver dye tech in 88's sweltering July, sweat beating as press 12 wheezes, a planchet poised wrong bam, off-center by 40%, the D teetering like a drunk on payday. He snags it slyly, a rebel's relic, slips it into his Levi's for luck through layoffs and lotteries, passes it to his son at the '92 Olympics watch party, who buries it in a backyard vault till 2025, When grandkid Gemma, scrolling TikTok treasures, IDs the offset, submits to PCGS, and flips it for $400 at Stacks. Bowers, bankrolling her Berkeley dreams. A helix from hub to horizon, metal memento of paternal pluck. Emotional eddies swirl here. This nickel a nexus of nostalgia and net worth. The 5 cents that could catalyze your cascade into comfort. Festering forgotten in that coffee can from the Clinton campaign trail. And the masses? They'd vending it for a Coke, vaporizing value in a fizz. But you, ignited viewer, hesitate, hunt, hold. That's the FOMO forge, the fear of forfeiting fate. And as this 1988's enigma enfolds us, sense the siren call to culmination. For if a Cold War coda like this crests at $3,500 through its quirks, brace for the capstone coin closing our chronicle, a Jefferson from an age of apps and austerity where one anomaly might avalanche into absurd abundance. But hush, the hush before the hammer demands your devotion to the denouement. Yet let's quarry deeper, for improperly annealed aberrations peel the nickel skin to bare copper cores and blistering blooms. An MS-63 with rosy rashes raking $280 at eBay in 2019. Its delaminate dermis a dermatological drama of drum-tumble defects. Vulnerability valorized by variety voyeurs who adore the alloy's autobiography. Rotated dies whirl the world wrong, 180-degree flips fusing obverse to reverse in existential vertigo. An MS-61 twisting $800 at Heritage 2017. Its topsy-turvy tango a trope for 88's tectonic shifts. Wall Street whoops and Berlin's breach in one spin. Feeder finger faux pas rake the reverse with robotic scratches. Automated arm artifacts at MS-62 for $670. Scars from the symphony of sorting that serenade the senses, while cut catastrophes crumble die corners into bulging blobs. MS-62 cuds cuddling $670 as Mintink's mortal coils coil back. Collectors court these conundrums for the conquest, the camaraderie of coin talk confessions. Nabbed a clash in change, the catharsis of certification where NGC nods turn nickels into narratives. And for step-setters, the 1988 DFS is the fulcrum, balancing bounty on brinkmanship. Real rediscoveries of the decade. A 90s Reno casino cashier culls a wrong planchet from slots, its cent-sized sass surfacing $600 at ANA 2000, fueling her flight school folly, or the 2015 estate in Ohio yielding a DDO MS-64 from dad's desk, $200 to a widow's wanderlust, whispers that wealth wanders, wooing the watchful. Heartstrings hum with this. The coin is confidant, chronicling your chronology from Atari afternoons to AI anxieties. A talisman tempting transcendence, most melting it in metaphor to mundane, but you, attuned, appraise, ascend. As arcs align toward apex, that final flourish flickers faint. The closing Jefferson, minted in millennial murmurs, its errors engineered to eclipse even this 80s opus. A valediction veiled in variance, but bask in the buildup, for bounty blooms in the brows. Broadening the breach, weak strikes whisper incomplete, dies dawdling to dull the dome at MS-60 for $20. A somnolent sibling to the sharp, while struck through snafus embed errant ejector wire or lint in lustrous loss, voids valorous at $150 for the vacuum's vogue. Why woo? Because in replication's reign, rebellion resonates, each erratum an emblem of entropy, and auction echoes amplify. A 2020 eBay off-center MS-63 at $200. Bitter beaming beat the bots. Or 2018 Stacks $350 broad strike. Lore linking it to a lost lunchbox legend. Spin a sequel. Tessa, tour guide at the Mint in 88's Equinox, eyes a clash mid-demo, its ghostly graft a graft of her glee. She squirrels it for her scrapbook, shares at her silver wedding in 98, heirloom to heir who heirs it through hurricanes till 2024. When a salvaged safe spills the MS-65, $300 at great collections, stitching storms to serenity. These tapestries tantalize, transfiguring the 1988 D from footnote to forefront, its $3,500 zenith a zenith of zest, zeniths zipping to your zipper's zip, probe that pouch, perchance to prosper. Nudge to nadir. The endgame nickel nestles near, its narrative nuking normalcy with novelties that notch new notches, but navigate the narrative's nerve, for numismatic's nectar is in the nuance. Culminating this cascade, the 1988 D. Jefferson nickel emerges as an emblem of era's exuberance, Errors etching exuberant escapes from the everyday. Value a vortex of variance and vision, beckoning you to burrow deeper, behold brighter, bank on the bizarre. For in every etched edge, an epic endures, and yours yearns to yield the yield that yanks you from yoke to yacht.